Welcome back to another video here on the Washington Football Maniacs channel. My name is Greg Sykes. Brandon Scott, has the night off. Few little technical difficulties on his end, so I am riding solo tonight, folks. So we're going to talk about the studs and duds in this game that we had yesterday against it was the Washington Commanders against the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was a very exciting game. You've got to admit that. Very exciting game to watch. Not the outcome we wanted to see, certainly, but you know what? This team played their hind ends off. Yes, this is a family channel. We'll keep it that way. They played their tails off, and honestly, we're going to get to studs and duds. But I will say this, that this team had chances to win this ball game. This is certainly one of the teams that's favored to be back into the Super Bowl this year. And for the Commanders to take them to task like they did, I mean, Washington led pretty much throughout this entire ball game up until about midways into the third quarter, before the Eagles finally came back and took the lead. So Washington played really well. But you know what? Let's get into the studs and duds, and then we'll talk about a few other things to wrap this up. So the first stud, obviously, is Sam Howell. Came off of a terrible game against the Buffalo Bills last week. Terrible game. Terrible. Right? Was it 4 interceptions he had? He was sacked like 9 times. I mean, it's awful. However, yesterday, Sam Howell, 29 for 41, 290 yards, averaged a little over 7 yards per pass, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He was sacked 5 times. But a QBR of 76.4. So a lot better than last week. That was definitely for sure. Sam Howell, big bounce back game from last week, and so my hat is off to Sam Howell. Who else? Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin had a big game last week or yesterday as well. 8 receptions for 86 yards. Averaged a little over 10 yards per reception. He played with a lot of heart and soul. He was robbed, in my opinion, of that last catch there in overtime. And I am sticking with that. I realize that in those situations that often, when it's called a certain way on the field, it's going to be very hard to overturn it. But that catch was in bounds. It was a good catch. It was definitely a good catch. Come on. Let's not talk about that tush push as well. I mean, it looks like that both teams honestly are offsides every single time. But anyway. Okay, so those two are my studs. I have to have at least 3 studs, right? Who's my third stud? My third stud, I'm going to say Logan Thomas. You know why? Because he only had 3 receptions. I mean, we should probably say Curtis Samuel because he had 7. But I'm going to say Logan Thomas just because, yeah, he didn't have bigger numbers, but he had that one nice big catch, took a big hit, got up, and he was fired up. If Logan Thomas can stay healthy, then that is big for the Commanders. I still like Cole Turner, and I still think that probably by the midpoint in the season, you're going to see a lot more Cole Turner. But I have to give my hats off to Logan Thomas. He played his heart out yesterday. But also, I will say, you got to give something to Curtis Samuel as well. Overall, I think the offensive line played okay, but they still gave up some sacks. You can't really blame it too much on Sam Howell yesterday. He did a lot better job getting the ball out of his hands. So the offensive line still has some work to do. Now, DUDS. DUDS, we have to go with, I'm sorry, Emmanuel Forbes got burnt like toast yesterday. Now, he's a rookie. He was going against A.J. Brown. I mean, what do you expect? But he got toasted a lot. That was a big ask for Emmanuel Forbes to go against A.J. Brown, not have any help. He got abused yesterday big time. And so he certainly had a dud yesterday, a big-time dud. I would also say probably the defensive line as a whole. Now, Chase Young did have that one sack. That was really good. I love seeing that sack from Chase Young. But otherwise, there was really not that much pressure at all on Jalen Hurts. You've got a front four of nothing but number one draft picks. And you got one sack yesterday. Not much pressure. So the whole defensive line is a dud yesterday. Sorry, but they are duds. And really, honestly, I mean, you're looking at the rankings of our defense compared to last year, and the defense now, they're like worse than middle of the pack. They're like ranked in the 20s in several areas, whereas last year they're in the top 10 in several areas. There is something big time wrong because honestly, they should be a much better team than that. My last dud, and I hate to, you almost never hear this, is Tress Way. I mean, no way. Tress Way? No way. But yes. Tress Way, a poor punt when we needed a huge punt from him. And you almost never see that out of Tress Way. You almost always see like a booming punt from Tress Way. I don't know if he was hurt, but he did not have a good day yesterday. And that was a poor punt from Tress Way at one of the most inopportune times for Washington to punt anyway, but to have a poor punt from Tress Way. So you probably will not hear me call out Tress Way anymore because almost never does he have a bad game. And honestly, you don't like to hear much from Tress Way anyway because you're hoping that the offense is scoring more points than not. But, Tress Way, not a good day yesterday. The running game yesterday, I tell you, Brian Robinson, 14 carries. That was it, just 14 carries, 45 yards. Antonio Gibson had 6 carries for 19. It's just not enough. Still, you gotta give Brian Robinson some more carries. Some more carries. Antonio Gibson, almost another disastrous fumble on that tall sweep. Luckily, he was able to grab it and turn a little disaster into something, but I mean, I tell you, he's just killing me. Antonio Gibson, man. Okay, so this would probably be a lot better conversation, talking to Brandon on this, but okay, we got to have this conversation. Should we have went for 2 points at the end of regulation? Initially, when Washington scored that touchdown, I was like, go for 1. Let's tie this up. Let's go into overtime. I just felt that it was too much of an ask to put that much pressure on the offense to try to win the ball game there. At the time, I was thinking this. because I felt that if we won the coin toss, which we did, the offense had a lot of momentum that they could keep things rolling, they could keep the football, and that they could go down the field and score a touchdown and win the ball game in overtime. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, of course. And, with that call of incomplete with that Terry McLaurin catch, that's controversial. I thought it was a catch, and, apparently everybody else felt like it was too close, that maybe his toes were barely scraping the white. I don't know. To me, it looked like he was in. But I think because the refs were very quick to call it incomplete, it was going to stand because there just was not going to be enough evidence to overturn it. So, knowing the fact that, we had a poor punt back to them, and also knowing the fact that A.J. Brown was just, exposing Emmanuel Forbes the whole game, there was not a lot of good chances. And even though that we had backed the Eagles out of field goal range, when Jalen Hurts had that call on him, that the intentional grounding call, I felt, okay, don't let them gain one single yard, because if you let them gain 5-6 yards, it's going to be just enough for them to kick a field goal. They let them gain about that many yards, they kicked the field goal, won the game. So, of course, hindsight's always 20/20. Should they have went for 2? I still stand by the statement, the fact that I think they did the right thing. Now, I don't know if I agree with the thing that the offense was gassed, as what Ron Rivera said. I think that they had the momentum. I think they had enough that they could have probably called a good play and gotten it in the end zone. But I think that it was a wiser thing to have just, let's catch our breath. Let's just go into overtime and let's just try to win it in overtime. It's a lot less stress there. But the defense let us down. Special teams let us down at that point. And so there was just too much of an ask. You could say that the offense let us down, but really, that pass was there. The catch was there. It was just called out of bounds. So I'm going to stand by my statement and say that it was the right thing to go into overtime. Had Ron Rivera went for 2 and didn't get it, then people would have been all over him. And I just, honestly, I think it was the right call. And I'm going to stick by it. I'm probably in the minority, but, I think overall we had our chances. Still, honestly, you got to think. You took a Super Bowl contending team to task. You got pretty much blown out by a Super Bowl contending team the week before. You bounced back. You almost beat a Super Bowl contending team on the road. I'm telling you, this team has heart. The defense has got to get better. Special teams got to get better. Got to get better. Coaching's got to be a little bit more consistent. I want to see more halftime adjustments. I want to see more pressure out of that front four. It's got to be more pressure. And it's got to be more pressure against really good teams. So we got the Bears coming up Thursday night. We'll see how that goes. Brandon and I will be back to talk about that. But until then, folks, I think I'm going to end this one. So let me know how I did. I realize I'm flying solo tonight. And I'm sure that you guys are getting tired of looking at this ugly mug, so I will end this one. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, give it a share. Let me know how I did in the comments. Let me know what you thought about that. Going for overtime or going for the 2 points? What would have you done? All right, folks. We will see you in yet the next video. Take care.